and welcome to Warhammer Online, and this is Monday Musing 76 or 3. I'm pretty certain it's 76. Crikey, how time flies. Right, tonight's show is, well, it's just a bit of a catch-up with all the latest news, actually. With it coming up to Christmas, we've seen a whole deluge of content coming out of Games Workshop, with a lot going across Warhammer 40k, Age of Sigmar. We've seen some of the independent the specialist games, as well as some fantastic terrain and updates coming through from Middle-earth. So the Lord of the Rings game, which is just absolutely beautiful. The new Rohan terrain is amazing. So I thought we'd have a bit of a catch-up, see what's been said. I've got a few things on my desk which we can have a look at, a bit of a channel discussion as well. We've got a whole bunch of filming we're doing over the Christmas break, so we're going to get some battle reports filmed and we'll be releasing them over the coming months. So we've got a lot to do over the next few weeks, but the good news is we've got a whole bunch of stuff lined up for it. So we'll chat a little bit more about that, including some of the reviews that we've got coming out, and a little bit of change to the format of the review as well as possibly, I'm looking to my side, so I've got a big pile of stuff next to me. We'll have a quick look at what's going off in this week's White Dwarf as well, because there's some good content in there. So there you go. Let's catch up with the chat, because there's a few people in there already, which is always nice to see. So let's say hello to everyone while we're in here. Martin Dix is there, 12 Neef. Mr. Neef, how are you doing, sir? I'm sure you were meant to be coming over to the UK sometime soon, but of course, me being my age, I've completely forgot when, but it'd be nice to see you again. Derpimus Maximus is in there, along with Coleman, Daryl, who else we got? Crikey, I'm sure I saw some people just popping in at the last minute there as well. Demon Lizard from Out of Space, gotta love that. And the Bod76 saying hi there, as well as Graham Rick saying evening all. So there you go. We're all here. Well, we're not all here, but there's a bunch of us here, and certainly enough to start getting on with the show. Crikey, where do we start? Well, there's a whole bunch of stuff that came out in this week's White Dwarf, which I thought was quite interesting, although, of course, being me, I've not actually checked what state the zoom is on the camera. So but some really nice stuff, including, you know what, one of the questions I got is they've actually, in this this month's White Dwarf, they've kind of put a little mini game in there as well, which looks fun, and also, interestingly enough, we're seeing some flyer rules for Age of Sigmar as well, or at least a flyer specific game for Age of Sigmar. I'm sorry, but I just love that conversion. That's absolutely amazing. So congratulations on Andrew Bailey, who did this beautiful work for his they're not Vespids, what are these things called? Kroot. There you go. Still remember that 40k nonsense. So there's a bunch of stuff going off there with some of the little mini games that they've released. So the question really was to the community, because here's this new game, the Spellflux Spire, which we got some, nice little playboard in there as well, and the rules on how to play it. Do you guys actually play it? Question. Do you play these mini games? Because what I've decided is, Jack is coming home from university at the end of this week, so I'm mega excited about that. But we're going to go and give some of these a go, possibly on live shows. So we'll have a quick read through the rules, and then we'll do a quick sort of 45-minute live show and play this game to see how it plays, basically, and see what we think to it. Because I think if you don't play these games, part of me is thinking, you're not getting all the value out of White Dwarf, really, are you? Because there's a whole bunch of content dedicated to this, and on top of that, it's not just content. People have taken their times to devise the game system, write it up, produce this beautiful artwork. But, personally, I always feel like I've got enough on, if you like, playing the game systems that I'm really close to. So I tend to ignore these mini games when they come and go. But it's Christmas, and rather than Monopoly, we're going to be playing the Spellflux Spire. And I might even get Mrs. Wargamer Online having a go at this as well, just to see. There's some nice content in here as well. We got rules and the card for Gotrek in there as well, and a little scenario as well, which comes into it. Crikey, there was so much in this week's White Dwarf that this month, I keep saying this week because it went weekly for a while, didn't it? This month's White Dwarf, it was pretty impressive. We've got some new War Scroll battalions in there as well for the Emerald Host, which is quite nice. You've got the Forgotten Scion, so this is a War Scroll battalion And in this, if you're into your Knights of Shrouds on Ethereal Steeds and 2 Dreadblade Harrow Knights, you can add 1 to attack characteristics of Malkor's Sword of Stolen Hours. In addition, once per battle, you can use the command ability of the War Scroll without a command point being spent. So again, great content coming through if you want to play the Charles Malkor, the traitor knight, basically. So yeah, I think the team at White Dwarf are trying really hard to give the community content. So I just hope that people are engaging with it, really, if they buy the White Dwarf. This is what I mentioned as well, the Skies of Slaughter. So essentially, from what I can gather with this looks like a rework of a 40k flyer game. A set of 40k flyer rules that they released. It looks extremely familiar in the quick read about it. I can't remember the name of it now, but I had a quick read through the rules and it looked extremely familiar, including things like firing arcs, etc. And interestingly enough, they've even given a couple of war scrolls. Not only do we get the rules in this, but we have a couple of war scrolls at the very end for the Arcanaut Ironclad, which gives you the hit rolls for the cannons, etc, etc. But you've also got this, the maneuver, flight level, swerve, bank, turn, and you know, the velocity having an impact on that. So interesting stuff. And also the Bloodthirster. Strangely enough though, because it was the Flamespire Phoenix that was illustrated throughout the whole thing, you don't actually get the card for the Phoenix. But from what I gather, more rules to come for that in the coming weeks. Let's just have a quick. Skies of Slaughter is a new set of rules for using your Sigmar flying models, the core rules of which are based on Stormcloud Attack. There you go, that was the name of it, which came out a few years ago for Warhammer 40k. This time, however, the las cannons and heavy bolters have been traded in for lightning hammers, sky bolts, not to mention the gnashing jaws and razor sharp claws. So there you go. So they've given you the card, the war scroll for the greater demon. I can't remember which one it is. The Bloodthirster, sorry. So it's not what's it? Of course, Scarbrand can't actually fly, can he? Because his wings are ruined. So he'd be no good in this game. And the Arcanaut Ironclad, which is really nice to see, along with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pages of rules. It's nice. I mean, that's a game in its own right. Get your flyer models out. Hopefully, over the coming months, you will see more cards being released. I'm sure there was some mention of that in the sort of coming issues. You're going to see more war scrolls and the rest. Again, that looks like a great Christmas break game. You know, if you're not trying to fill up your time just by getting in games of your favourite game anyway. Let's catch up on the chat, because I'd be interested to see what people have said. I'm super interested in mini games and the flyer game, says 12 Neef. You've got it already. Yes, it rolls up in the post quite early to me sometimes. I mean, I don't know how far. I should imagine everybody's starting to receive it right now. Certainly in the UK. I appreciate you're in the US, and I know that things can take a little bit longer to get out there. They were printing and distributing it out in the US at one point, weren't they? Demon Lizard is indeed interested in the minigame. I love the minigame, says 12 Neef. They're quick, they're light, they're great for travelling and showing off to new players. Well, there you go. We're going to turn it into our Christmas game, and I'm going to try and get some non-wargaming people to play these minigames, because at the end of the day, they're just like another little board game, aren't they? Maybe not the flyer one, but we'll see. There's a bit more involved for the flyer one. Anybody remembers the Orc Bar fight in the White Dwarf? Yes, I do remember that, actually. I think you mean the Orc one, don't you? Which was absolutely brilliant. And in fact, he corrected himself as Demon Lizard. If you played Underworld's 2nd and 3rd seasons, you have the wizards already. Well, there you go. I'm not sure I do have the models for that, to be honest. So, but we can certainly sort something out. What's the deal with the Necromunda booklet? Is it only for Dark Rising? We can have a look at that if you like. We'll pick up the Necromunda booklet next and have a quick look at that. I liked the More Tribes campaign last month in White Dwarf, very flavourful. Don't like players just ignore these rules and mini games, but Games Workshop need to make my Squeak jousting game already. How cool would that be? I am flocking all night long Blood Bowl bases with synthetic grass and a flocking machine, says Dave Dog. So you doing the proper, like, charging your static grass with the static machine, the flocking machine that kind of makes it all stand up right, because it does look great when you actually go to the trouble of doing that. Don't forget to click if you want to support the channel, says Bod76. Thank you very much. That's very nice. I think it means click the thumbs up, but you know, we'll see when we get there. Right, somebody asked about the Necromunda thing, so why not? Let's take a look at that, because we're just looking at the new stuff tonight. So let's see if I can zoom out a little bit at the risk of showing the edge of my messy desk, because my desk is messy at the moment. There you go. Just don't look there. Okay. Right, Necromunda. Maybe I'll zoom in a bit anyway, because you guys can have a better chance to see in the content. Let's put the White Dwarf to one side. This is the Gang Grades Gaming Supplement. As you can see, it is that many pages. That's on the inside cover, and what appears to be 4 pages on the inside. So you can do the count on that. It's basically, designer's note, the scenarios presented here intend to make for quick games, perhaps played over a lunch break, or to allow several smaller games to be played in the evening. In campaign play, these scenarios are perfect for gangs who have several fighters in recovery, or for players wishing to strike at their opponents without risking their whole gang. So there you go. Due to the relatively small size of gang raid scenarios, the following rules apply to them. You've got Bottle Test, Beneath My Notice, A Minor Affair, Deployment, and the Loot Casket. So yeah, this is really nice. I'm not going to go through it page by page, but it is indeed a standalone little booklet. Gives you a whole bunch of stuff in terms of the objectives you need to play for, how they come into a point, and the actual tiled. So you do of course need, one would assume, Necromunda to play this, because at no point did they give you cardboard tiles. But I'm reliably informed the plastic tiles are also available separately anyway, so why not? Here we go. If you wanted just the summary off the back there, Necromunda is a tabletop game. That's just giving you the general information to Necromunda. Oh, there we are. For those of you wanting a bar brawl, there are indeed rules for a bar brawl, so how about that? So, it looks cute, it looks fun, and again, it's another small game, and why not? If I can convince Jack to... We do have the original release of Necromunda. We didn't go for the latest updated version of Necromunda, although I'm highly tempted just for the terrain, but that's another story. We might even give that a go over Christmas and do a little live kind of gaming show from here, which is what we're hoping to do. I'm going to take some time off over Christmas. I've not had any holiday for, I think, over 3 months now, so probably getting ready for a break. 12 Neath said, I think that's an inner discussion between Coleman and 12 Neath. Derpinus Maximus says, back in the day there was one issue of White Dwarf that came with a little board game based off the boarding of the Vengeful Spirit. It was great. Oh, cool. That's almost the size of the 40k basic rules. Good point. I think in issue 11 they had a bar fight brawl for D&D. How cool is that? For Dungeons and Dragons as well. Fancy that. But of course, yes, I remember my oldest copy of White Dwarf is issue number 4. So that's as far as back as I go. And I'm going to admit something quite horrendous. I actually had an issue number 1 at one point, but who knows what happened to it. I remember having it at university with me, which was long after issue number 1 was out, but I kind of took some of my gaming stuff with me, and I fear that's as far as it made. I think it got left behind in one of the student houses I stayed in, or simply the dry rot got to it. But that was the end of my issue 1 White Dwarf, unfortunately. Not 100% certain. I think my brother might have one. I don't know. Anyway, back in the day of Tunnels and Trolls, for those of you who remember that. Okay, we've got some really nice content as well for Sigmar Beyond the... Sorry, not for Sigmar, for 40k. Let's have a quick look at this one. Some nice little army case stuff as well. The Warlords of Vigilus, so is a good look at... you know, this wonderful Genestealer cult army, making me feel like I really, really want to get my Genestealer cults just painted, finished, and played with, to be honest, as well as this demi company of Primaris Marines as well. So some cute looking stuff. A conversion that I've seen attempted several times, really, in one form or another, where they're using part of the kit from the Age of Sigmar triplets monster. I can't remember the name of it now. Typical, I'd forget it. But the big Glotkin. The Glotkin. There you go. I've seen it done in different versions where you've got this arm or more of, you know, some of the legs replaced. Either way, it's a fantastic way of converting a knight, because the two kits are just so nicely comparable in size that I think it just, you know, gives some real modelling opportunity there. Right, okay, I don't know whether there's anything else I wanted to cover out of the White Dwarf, to be honest. There's a few things I wanted to have a look at online. There is some very cool stuff in the back of the White Dwarf, which is a little kill team thing, Da Festive Revolution. Just to give you a quick look at that. So, good old Red Gobbo having a go at kill team, and you do indeed get the rules for the Red Gobbo. He's got some nice little cool rules, like has Yo been a good little grot this year? At the start of the movement phase, you can pick one or other Gretchen model within 3 inches of this model and and roll 1d6. On a 1, that model suffers a mortal wound. Or on a 2 to 6, treat the model as being armed with stick bombs, in addition to other war gear until the end of the battle. So gets a nice little present. Obviously, on a 1, he's not been a good boy, and Da Red Gobbo just basically kills him. Or, well, yeah. Actually, how many wounds does... I'm trying to remember how many wounds. More than one. Enough to hurt it, anyway. And there's a nice little narrative play mission in there called The Revolution. There you go. Which is really cute. With a nice sort of map where you've got, obviously, attackers and defenders deployment zone. But it looks like fun. And again, possibly, seeing as though I quite like Kill Team, we might even squeeze that one in. And it possibly pushes me over the edge to popping down to the local Games Workshop, saying hi to our lovely local store manager and picking up a Red Gobbo if he's got any left. If I remember last time there was a couple sat there. And finally, there's a Blackstone Fortress mission in there as well, which is the Salvation of Penittent 70 something, 707. There you go. So the penitent man may pass. You know, feels very Christmassy. It's got to have some kind of reference, one would hope, to Raiders of the Lost Ark, but you never know. I don't know. Maybe that's just how my mind works. It's Christmas, it's Raiders of the Lost Ark, and the penitent man shall pass. And there's some more Necromunda content in the bag. All in all, a jolly good copy of... Ooh, it's green. How does that work? So that doesn't work against the green screen, does it? No one expects Inquisition rules for Kill Team, says Derpimus Maximus, Demon Lizard from Outer Space. Still in waiting for them. And 12 Knee says, fantastic, I love quick games. Great for trying out bat reps for us noobs. And I think we're there. The Penitent Man is Last Crusade. Is it? Is it really? Okay. You know what? I'm not going to argue with you. I can barely remember what day of the week it is. It's the only reason I do a show on a Monday is to remind me the week started. Tell you what, a few other things I've been doing. You know, let's do a little bit of hobby. Not been doing a lot, to be honest, because I have been super tied up. But one of the things I have been doing is I have been working on my Fire Slayer Dracolines, and I've been working on these little saddles. I don't know whether I can... There you are. There's one there with a basic wash on, which was 3D rendered the other week. I'm going to try and zoom in and see if we can get away with that. Zoom out, zoom in, zoom in. There you go. So there's a little Fire Slayer saddle that I 3D designed. In fact, actually, that was a draft print, and I just put a wash over it to see what it was looking like from a scale point of view. So there indeed are the saddles to my Dracoline Fire Slayers that I've been trying to do. I ended up printing loads of those, so if somebody wants a Fire Slayer saddle, let me know, because I definitely overprinted. No, I'm not selling them, but I will happily pass them on to somebody who says yes. I can't green stuff to save my life. Well, I didn't do green stuff on that one. That was actually 3D printed, so they just happened to be in green resin. So yeah, that was designed in some wonderful 3D software and 3D printed. Although I have been working a little bit, as you can see, I've kind of filled the tail out on these, and there's a little bit more smoothing work to be done on those. And the sides have got, they just need completely filing down and smoothing off, and a fine layer of milliput probably over that, just to sculpt some detail back into the flanks, because the issue I had to remove sort of the Age of Sigmar stuff. And then I've got a little strap running underneath the belly there. I don't know whether you can see that, but that's going to be extended up to hold these saddles out, so it will fan out and quite nicely hide some of this detail as well. So that's what I've been working on. I've been press molding some detail as well, but I'm a bit 50-50 on that at the moment. This is something I was looking at for the flanks, where I was basically press molding these weird little ribs off of off of the actual magma drops to kind of put that detail in there. I may still use that, but I'm 50-50 on that. The other thing I've been working on is some gaming aids, basically. So, you know, there's the classic 2x3 inch and 1/2 inch, and there's a 9-inch stick as well with the logo on. So I've been working on that. But this one, obviously 2-inch, 3-inch, 1-inch, 1/2 inch, and 6-inch for objective markers. You know, most of the games are within 6-inch. There's a few within 3-inch, but I've always got the 3-inch measure. And of course, you'll also notice that's 9-inch as well, so that's for the end of deployment. So that's something I've been designing and printing out just for the battle reports. And I'm attending. Oh, well, there's a kind of like a semi look what it could look like, basically. There you go. But that's for the tournament I'm attending in February. So I want to get a few gaming aids done, and it's always something. I usually do a few extra and just pass them on to the opponents I'm up against as a little memento of the game, so they can remember how well they beat me. Spellflux Spire minigame looks a lot better version of the Crystal Labyrinth minigame from the May 2018 White Dwarf. Okay, fair enough then. Fire slavers sleep on beds of basalt and pumice cushions. I think I would love one for no reason, but I have, as it's you. What was that? Maybe that's the saddle. Finished 90% of the Warcry terrain. Haven't played it yet. And not sure if I will. I played Warcry. Yeah, I haven't played it enough to make a fair judgment on it yet. I played 2 games of it, and I didn't get on with it. But that, I think I started playing too soon before I'd properly absorbed the rules, and that can always be a bad introduction to the game, I think. So we are going to give Warcry another shot over Christmas as well. So that's something else we're hoping to try and do, because I think the terrain and the models are absolutely gorgeous. So I just hope that the game is better than my first impression. But I will caveat that heavily with, hey, well, you know, as I said, I don't think I properly absorbed the rules. Right, what else has been going off? Well, one of the things I wanted to have a look at is the kind of stuff that's been shouted out on the community. I think there's some quite exciting stuff coming along. So let's have a look at that. Yeah, you know, Rohan, just wow. So this is the new board that's been put up at Warhammer World. If you haven't been there and it's achievable to get there, then I highly recommend going to the exhibition hall. But this new Rohan terrain piece looks absolutely beautiful. The more and more these guys release at the moment really makes me want to look at this game. Just the idea of having a terrain board like that would be such fun to play on. And it kind of appeals to the kind of almost the historic wargamer side of me to a degree, because I just think, although I know it's not true history, for me it's almost like the history of fantasy, and it's fantastic to play. And of course, you know, these designs now from the films have become so embedded in fans of the Lord of the Rings in terms of their their psyche. You know, if I think of Rohan now, I cannot not picture it like this. So it's amazing that this terrain is available to us. Same with the Hobbit holes. I'd love to do some content and some gaming based around Lord of the Rings, because it's just absolutely fantastic. And I think actually Rob is
in this month's White Dwarf, Rob Alderman, that is, who was heading up the team. I'll be careful what I say because I can't quite remember exactly his job title, but heading up the team for Lord of the Rings. Maybe it's product development or something like that. Can't quite remember, so apologies if I've got any of that wrong. But sterling work. It's great to see Games Workshop giving it a whole bunch of love, basically. So it's absolutely fantastic to see that, and this terrain just looks amazing. So yes, if you've never checked Middle Earth out, maybe it's time to jump in. Who knows? Who knows? For me, it feels like that time is rapidly encroaching. A couple of interesting things actually from from Forge World as well. You know, we're seeing some new models coming out of Forge World, and it's nice to see those coming forward now. So I love this kind of heavy bombardment tank that they've released there. Brutal short range firepower. It's quite nice. It's, you know, they've kind of reversed. It's quite reversed the tank design, because we're all used to seeing the slope at the front. To kind of reverse it around and see it as a bombard vehicle, I think it's actually a cute looking model. And interestingly enough as well, I spotted somewhere that they've also re-released the whole the old Imperial Guard vehicle, haven't they? Which was the, I want to say Leviathan. It's definitely not called that, but that's a good place to start. Oh, you know what? I'm not going to be able to find this now, am I? Because I'm pretty certain I wasn't this far back. No, I'm just going to ignore it. But the great big personnel carrier that was Imperial Guard has been re-released. And that in itself is quite interesting news. Oh, here we go, returning to Forge World. So it's the Gorgon. Thank you very much, Games Workshop, for organising your community post in such a convenient way. Oh, crikey, it's just taken me straight through to the shop and I've accidentally bought it. Does that happen every time? Yeah, it does. Okay, but the Gorgon, fantastic model. Great to see it re-released. Does that mean we might be seeing more of some of the old Forge World stuff getting re-released as the Horus Heresy comes to an end? Are we going to see an expansion of some of the old models? Don't know, but it's certainly interesting to see that back. Oh, I'm getting told off by Derpimus. Definitely the Last Crusade, or should I say the Last Crusade. I can't green stuff. That looks so comfy. What, the stone saddle? Yeah, Fire Slayers. Not only, one would assume it's the only reason they wear padded pants. They don't need any other form of clothing, but padded pants are required to sit on stone thrones. I would look for no I think we've covered that one, sorry. We have covered that one. I scrolled too far up. What have we got here? More cards are coming for existing Age of Sigmar factions. Yes, I've seen that mentioned. Caradron Overlords for Warcry. Interesting. The terrain is really cool. I think we've probably moved on to talking about... we might be talking about Warcry still there. And Demon Lizard says, thinking of Sacrosanct, all those sweet-looking STD minis. And... Sisters... What's the STD stand for? Somebody help me out there. 12 Neef. A lot of armies will be up and coming in the Warcry supplement book. So there you go. Yeah, Warcry is getting a lot of expansion, so it's definitely one to watch. And I feel, like I say, I need to return to it and give the game some more play, because I feel I didn't really do it justice. I'm hoping that with Jack home over Christmas, I know he's got to revise for exams, but I'm hoping we can have some terrain painting sessions, and maybe we'll do those as a hobby hangout as well, and just nail some of the terrain done, because we do need all of the terrain doing. Slaves to Darkness. Oh, how could I forget? We do need to do the terrain to Warcry and get it painted, so we can do some little game reports as well. So let's see if we can get some of that done. Slaves to Darkness. What a very, very cool battle tome. Absolutely love it. We're going to be doing a review to this. I've been passing notes backwards and forwards to the team here at WGO. So we are going to do reviews of these things. What we've done is taken a kind of a more... as I mentioned earlier, a more considered approach to some of these battle tome reviews, rather than whipping them open, 24 hours after we've received them.
and just kind of talking about, you know, literally showing everybody the pages, is to take a bit of time to absorb the battle tome and to be able to kind of talk about it in a more concise way, either in terms of lore or in terms of how it will impact the gaming and whereabouts we think it will sit in the meta. Obviously, we've got a bunch of stuff to catch up on, so we are going to be revisiting Cities of Sigmar, not Beasts of Chaos. Why did I say Beasts of Chaos? Ogre Moor tribes, and we're definitely going back to the Orcs as well, the Aurochs, and we'll be looking at Slaves to Darkness as well. So we're going to be revisiting all of those in some longer shows over the Christmas period, and we'll probably be releasing the audio from those shows as a podcast as well. So there you go. Right, what else has been going on? Well, a quick look at the community. Did I say community there? Community? I don't know why I said it like that. Blood of Baal, Psychic Awakening. Some exciting news coming out and hints in 40k, isn't there? You know, I think we might be seeing another Chaos Primarch hitting the shelves fairly soon, hopefully. You never know. There were some great changes to the Tyranids inside the Blood of Baal as well, which, you know, I've got here. It's a fantastic book. I've, again, only just started to digest that. And the good news is for those wonderful, patient 40k fans of Wargamer Online is we are going to be producing some more 40k content now. And in fact, we've got some players coming over to the studio in the Christmas break to film some more 40k battle reports, where we'll be looking at things like what impact does Blood of Baal have on Tyranids, for instance. I do know that looking through the Tyranid list, we managed to get Gaunts up to a -5 rend if you applied enough nonsense to them. So what would you do with -5 rend? Look at that, I've gone out of focus. How's that happen? Oh, there you go, fixed it just by waving my hand in a Jedi-esque way. No more priming in New York. The weather turned into true winter. It's cold and it's sloppy. Yeah. So no more outdoor priming, and you're far too sensible to try and attempt priming internally. Yeah, I don't know whether you've got an airbrush, but I'm a big fan of these. They can be used indoors. So this is the Steinel Res primers as well. So they always get me out of a tight spot when it comes to priming during winter, because I can just hit the airbrush and there's no horrible toxic fumes, well, above and beyond the usual atomized paint, but at least there's no propellant, so it does keep me going throughout the winter when it comes to priming. I was priming like a maniac in November. I knew the ugly was coming. Yeah, I can't imagine having to try and like plan ahead for an entire winter's worth of priming, which would probably be about 4 models for me. How far are you from Warhammer World? I know you're located into Midlands, but that's all I know. UK outside of London. We are, I think, 49 miles to Warhammer World. That's what the sat-nav always says when I head off up the motorway. So generally, it's about an hour, because bear in mind I have to go through more or less the city centre, the city ring road at least, to get to Warhammer World. So I dare say, you know, half of the journey is 40 miles, and then the last 9 miles takes the other half of the time. In one bedroom in Brooklyn, space is a luxury I don't really have. Fair enough. Yeah, well, you've got your coping tactic, which is to prime like crazy before the winter hits, so hopefully that will carry you through. Worst comes to worst, ship them over to me, I'll prime them for you, and we can ship them back. Seems an extravagance, but maybe we could achieve that. Right, what else has been going off on the community site? What did I notice that I caught my eye, I suppose? Well, there was definitely, for me, the highlight was the fact that the Lord of the Rings, the Middle Earth stuff, I think is a highlight for me. I'm pretty pleased with that. We've got some nice content on Slaves to Darkness, and there was one, I'm trying to find the article now, which I thought was pretty cool. I mean, there was the usual set of faction focuses. There was the Rumour Engine. Who knows what that is? It looks like a weird scale.
So I was trying to work it out, and what I mean by it looks like a weird scale is that's not overly detailed. So that looks like a very small part of something. But yeah, and it looks quite flat as well. So I wondered if it was off some kind of marker for a new specialist game that's coming out, maybe. I don't know. What do you guys think? We'll see. We'll see. But I wondered if it was, some kind of marker for a specialist game as opposed to. It's certainly not a terrain piece. And if it's part of a model, there's a strange set of detail to it. That'd be a fairly small part to a model. It just didn't seem to make a lot of sense. But there you go. And, yeah, not quite sure. Not quite sure. There's a whole bunch of Christmas gifts out. The pre-orders, actually, for this period, just scrolling back to the top there, because it did talk about... the pre-orders for now is just insane with James Workshop, by the way, if you want the latest cool advert coming out of the media team. We've of course got the start collecting for Slaves to Darkness, which looks absolutely wonderful. But then with Slaves to Darkness, of course, the expansion of Untamed Beasts, Iron Golems, Splintered Fang, and the Cypher Lords, and the Corvus Cabal, and the Unmade, expanding them out into usable units within Slaves to Darkness, and then some absolutely fantastic endless spells. I know that some people have started to complain that, well, there's the attack one, there's the defense one, etc., etc., but I don't mind it. And that is a really cool terrain piece. There's no two ways about that. That looks absolutely fantastic. I love it. And even the 8-pointed star just burning away through a mound of flaming skulls looks absolutely fantastic. But to me, I really like that stuff. And worst comes to worst, I think they're not terribly priced, and at the same time, future terrain pieces for me. They're going to be available, for a long time. So you can just paint them up and use them as nice, cute little terrain pieces. I think even if you're not using the faction. Of course, the usual set of stuff that come with it, the cards, etc., etc. We had the interesting Blood Bowl release, and I say interesting because there were some very strange models released as part of that one, for sure. In fact, it's just utterly terrifying. That model is just scary as hell. Lost for words when it comes to describing that one. And then, of course, we had this wonderful Warhammer Rohan content and these fantastic terrain pieces. They're just so nice. Crikey. Really makes me want to play that game. So, yes, the whole team there are doing a fantastic job. And, of course, we saw the Grots coming out for the Flyer game. I forgot the name of it, Aeronautica. And even more, the Tomb of Champions. So, yeah. A hell of a lot of pre-orders. It's like there's some kind of special festive event coming up, and they're trying to get us to drain our pockets as fast as possible before that period hits us. Where are we now? Martin Dix is heading off. No problem. You got to be up early. That's fair enough. I indeed have got to be up early too, which is why I ran the show a little bit early tonight, because I've got to get down to London for first thing in the morning. And you can have small forces. It's not killing the wallet. Yeah, the small form games are a really good idea for you to be able to experiment with different factions and try different models out without committing to a massive pocket spend. I think in hindsight, if I was starting on a very limited budget, I think it's a much better idea to have variety in your collection to start with and play these small form games than to try and just commit heavily to 7,500 points worth of Eldar or something like that. So I do like the fact that these games now are available as an option to players. Okay, well, we were going to have a quick catch up on the news. There's a lot of releases it's a big rush towards Christmas. There's some great content in the White Dwarf that we've covered, and I've talked a little bit about what we're planning on doing with the channel over the Christmas period. So hopefully you're going to see a few more live shows, because we're going to do some live gaming. I've been setting up the new setup. As you know, we had a fry with our computers, so there's a new setup in place now, and we're good. I've done a test record, and it ran for over 3 hours without error, because that was the problem I was having with some of these longer shoots, that we were getting errors on the system, which was a pain. So I know that we can run for up to 3 hours, which ideally we wouldn't do for things like a battle report, etc. But expect to see some live games over the Christmas period, because I think it's going to be a fun thing to do, and we might be playing some little strange versions of the games as well over the Christmas period. But I do like the idea of digging out these mini games that probably didn't get much cover, and we can give them a little bit of airtime and try them out and explain them to people. And if people like the look of them, they could give them a go themselves over Christmas. I'd like to hear in the comments if you're planning on playing any of the mini games and what you think to them, or any recommendations would be fantastic. Daniel's just joined us. Hi there. Sorry I'm late. Don't apologise. That's okay. I was early tonight, and it's a shortish show, so don't worry about it too much. Try out those mini games. They need more love. And says 12 Neef. I'm with you, 12 Neef. And next time you do head over to the UK, give me a shout, sir. Give me a shout, because it'd be great for you to come and join us on the channel and do some mini games and film them, because you're such a character, and really enjoyed playing the skirmish game with you. So let us know if you ever make it back over to the UK. I know that when you do come over to the UK, you're generally on the clock, aren't you? But even so, let's try and do something. In the meantime, I'm going to go away and read Spellflux and try and work out what that game's all about. I'm going to continue pushing on with my little oh wow, how cool is that? Yeah, I can't even explain how I achieved that. And sorry, that's great. I could do that all night. I'm going to push on with that unit, because I've got to get them done for February. That is one other thing worth mentioning, actually. Just before I close down the stream, I did want to mention, in terms of events this year, and in fact that was one of the posts, because it was talking about the events that were coming up. We are going to be at the Age of Sigmar Throne of Skulls this in February. So if you're planning on coming along to that, look out for us. Myself and Jack are definitely there. I think Liam possibly is joining us. I'll be playing Fire Slayers. He's doing Daughters. And it's a really, really interesting format to the Throne of Skulls for February, because we are playing 3 games of meeting engagements and then 3 full match play games at 2,000 points. So the meeting engagements at 1,000 points, and then you've got 3 games at 2,000 points. I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm trying to kind of build an army that I'm not... How can I say this? I'm not going to win. I'm going to have some fun games. That's what I'm trying to do with this tournament. I'm trying to switch off that whole, how can I completely polish this list until it's an absolute nails list. I'm trying to design a list that's actually fun to play against. So it's going to have, for instance, it's Fire Slayers, but you're going to see Magma Drops. And I think Magma Drops are fun because they can do a lot of damage for sure, but you can also kill them. And I do think... having a Fire Slayer army that's made completely up of half guard isn't a lot of fun for the opponent, because ultimately you just hit this wall of unkillable stuff, if you like. And I want a game where, people actually have fun, but the tricky balance is I also want the games to kind of run the full length of the game. So, if you go too far with it, and there's a lot of units inside Fire Slayers that just fold really quickly if you're not careful. So trying to balance it at the moment and have some fun with the Fire Slayer list. I might do a show just on the list design and trying to work out how to get that to work. We're certainly going to be playing some test games as battle reports with the Fire Slayers versus Daughters, and we are going to be exploring meeting engagements, because so far I am dreadful at meeting engagements. I'm just going to admit that. I've played 3 games. Man, I don't know whether it's the faction I'm playing or whether I'm just playing meeting engagements wrong, but there's a bunch of work for me to do there. Hey dude, can't wait for the games. Have been checking out new Slaves Tome, some changes affecting Mizich, but I've also got some clutch rules combos as such exciting. It's a really good book, without a doubt. It's a really, really good book. We've been having a lot of fun with that. We've had a couple of experimental list building sessions where we've just been passing ideas backwards and forwards and working on combos, and we're like, oh, this is so filthy. Okay, there we go. I think we're pretty... oh, goodness me, Ralph. You've just joined at the last second. That's what the hobby is about for me. That's how I play Underworld, says 12 Mead. I don't want to get my teeth kicked, but I don't want the another job. But I don't want another job, if you get me. Fair enough. Fair enough. I think that's the thing, is it's trying to Throne of Skulls in particular, I think you need to focus on, you know, creating a list that is fun for all, you know, fun for both players. I'm going to do a Monday Musing covering a range, or it might be a hobby hangout, it might be a Monday Musing, I'm not quite sure, but we're going to be covering a range of tactics as well, because that's one of the other things that we've been discussing. So one of the things we're considering doing is like a show per phase. So we talk about the hero phase, we talk about you know, movement, combat, charge, and you know, and going through the sequence. And it's not a how-to, it's going to be how to get the most out of that phase, basically, how not to ignore it. So that's one of the things we've been talking about. Quite excited about that and looking forward to it. And Ralph Hummel's joined us. Ralph, how are you doing, sir? It's good to see you there, although you've popped on just as I'm about to close the show down. So I'm away the rest, but give me a shout sometime. We'll catch up on chat if we can. That would be fantastic, Mr. Ralph. Right, okay, all. Thank you very much. I tell you what, I'm going to call it a night at that. And I will see all of you lovely people next week. And next week, hopefully, I'll probably be joined by Jack and maybe a couple of others. So it'll be definitely old school. All right, see you soon and have fun. Can't find the button. Bye.